Is it me, or does anybody else feel more awake at night? Yes, you could call it a bad habit, like, why don't you sleep at 10 and wake up at 5? Or, why do you procrastinate in the daytime and do all your work at night? Or for some reason, right as 10 p.m. rolls around, it feels like your coffee just kicked in, not that I drink any, and I suddenly feel the urge to whip out my computer and start work, especially after we watch a day of TV and YouTube. No? It's just me? Well. In this video, I want to go over some of the science behind being a night owl, the concept of the term sleep equity, and tying it all in with how our working schedules have changed over the past year. Now, if you're anything like me, growing up, you've always been told by your parents that you should go to sleep early and wake up early. My dad always tells me that the morning is the best time of the day because it's quiet, everybody else is asleep, and it's a time where you can get a lot of work done. But I never really understood the argument behind that because if I stay up late and start doing work at night, isn't it also quiet? Isn't everybody else also asleep? Can I also get a lot of work done? And if you're on YouTube watching a lot of these motivational entrepreneurs, you've probably seen a lot of these my morning routine videos where they'll get up at 5 or 6 in the morning and keep grinding until 10 p.m. right before they go to bed. And I've tried to imitate their lifestyle a couple times, but I've never had an easy time waking up early in the mornings. And even if I do, it's really hard for me to get in the zone. And at least where I live, it's always super cold in the morning, especially in the wintertime. So I always wondered, why would anybody want to get up that early? So I decided to look more into it for this video, and I found a couple things that were pretty interesting. Research has shown that around half of the population wakes up and goes to sleep with the sun. 20% are especially productive before breakfast, aka the particularly excited group of entrepreneurs you see on YouTube. 10% are light sleepers who don't feel particularly productive until the late morning or late afternoons. And the last 20% are categorized as night owls, or people who feel particularly productive in the evening. And I don't want to be particularly biased towards this research, but I found out something pretty interesting with my sleep patterns that supports what the research has shown. And if there's anyone that's more educated on this topic, tell me more down in the comments below because I found this pretty interesting. So back in high school, I would have these pretty early classes at like 7 in the morning. Okay, it doesn't sound that early, but I lived around an hour away from school, so the bus would come pick us up at around 6. And since my parents were always big believers in having a good breakfast before heading to school, I would always have to wake up around 5:20 a.m. But the point being that no matter how early I slept the night before or how much sleep I managed to get, waking up at 5:20 a.m. was never easy for me. I would go to sleep at 9 and wake up at 5, and I would still be tired. But the interesting thing I found was the first time I stayed up until 2 a.m. in the morning. I naturally woke up at 10 a.m. I didn't need an alarm. It wasn't particularly hard. I felt completely awake and lively, and I still got the same 8 hours of sleep. To me, I figured this had to have something to do with the research that I just mentioned, and that I'm probably a night owl, but I don't know. I'm not claiming that this is why. This is just something interesting that I wanted to share. But the background of this research is shown in how groups of animals keep themselves safe at night. Some of them are happy to stand guard while others sleep at night because biologically, this is how they were created. Some function better in the morning and others function better at night. This is also known as sentinel theory. And this pattern wasn't confirmed to be seen in humans until 2017 when scientists studied a group in Tanzania throughout a 20-night research period. And they found that the only time the whole tribe was asleep during that time was only a span of about 18 minutes. And the rest of that time they were alternating between some being the early birds and some being the night owls. So to answer the question, is it weird being a night owl? No, it's not weird. It's completely normal. And the problem is that society has constructed the apparent work schedule, or the 9-to-5 job, that only works or is advantageous for less than half of the population. Not getting enough sleep affects your mood, your productivity, and I would think that adjusting these schedules to where people are able to perform at their peak productivity would improve students' grades and the quality of work and projects that need to be done to some degree. And studies have consistently shown that pushing back school by an hour has increased the performance levels and the quality of life for those students across the board. "2020 and now 2021 has created a significant shift in all of our work schedules. And when the pandemic and the lockdown first started, many thought that this would create chaos to all our schedules, blending our personal life with our work life. But according to a new study, half the participants found that working remotely helped them become more productive because they were able to finish their work when they were the most awake and alert. And that's what the term sleep equity is all about. We're using the special circumstances that we're in to level the playing field between the early birds, the night owls, and everybody else in between. Since everyone has different lives and different schedules throughout the day, they can take advantage of the time when they are most productive to get the most work done, rather than going by a set work schedule of the 9 to 5 that society has decided works for them. Since people have started working remotely, communication has been conducted digitally, so you don't have to go into the office at certain times to go to meetings, and you can choose the best time of the day that works for you to finish your work. And this is particularly advantageous for those groups and companies who work across different time zones. Work shifts can be done across a 24-hour period, increasing the quantity and probably the quality of the work that's being done as well. People do their best work on their own schedule. As long as the work that needs to be done is communicated clearly and they finish it by the deadline, along with aligning with the group or the company's goals. And in the end, the goal is more important than everyone's individual journey to get there. And obviously, this doesn't work for all situations. The problem right now is that no one is trying to change the system, or at least not to a significant degree. Before the pandemic, individuals would still need to get up relatively early, depending on how far they lived from work, to try and beat the traffic. And after work, they would still need to sit in traffic in order to get home. And looking back, that's a significant amount of time that's wasted. Think about it. If your ability to do your best work is thrown off because you're working too early or too late, doesn't it harm the quantity and quality of work that you're able to put out? Yes, the world isn't full of just early birds and night owls. But under the current system, they're putting 30% of the population at a disadvantage even before they get out of bed. The concept of sleep equity involves respecting how someone else functions just as much as you would want them to respect yours. Ideally, we should create a system in which everyone feels like an early bird on their own schedule so they can go and catch their one. So I hope this pandemic has given everyone a wake-up call as to how work can and should be structured in order to benefit the other half of the population that has been neglected for so long. That being said, I always found the feeling of being more productive after I showered and got into bed pretty interesting. So I decided to look into it and discover this concept of sleep equity. Hopefully you learned something new or found something interesting in this video. And like always, if you made it to the end, go ahead and click the subscribe button down below because you clearly didn't find me too boring. I'm going to try and start uploading 2 videos every week starting this next week. But anyways, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you very soon in the next video.